Never before in the history of organized American professional sports had one league risen to such great heights and right on the verge of being irreplaceable, and then completely let it shatter by making terrible decisions, by pissing off their fans, by always changing the rules, and basically turning the sport into a joke. NASCAR has become a joke in American auto racing. I mean, look at the number of people right now who are going to Formula One. More Formula One racing in America. Why? Because they like it, because it's fun, because it's entertaining, because it's fast, because they don't throw the constant bullshit at the fans like NASCAR has done for many years. So NASCAR right now sits on the verge. 2026 is a year of decision. NASCAR is either going to find itself back in the mix, they're going to become a major sport again, and hold off on the major sport. I'll get to that in a moment, okay? They're going to become that major sport again, or they're going to continue to alienate their fans. They'll alienate the sponsors. The drivers will be pissed. The owners will be pissed. And once again, it'll just be an also-ran sport. Now, when I say major, there's no doubt whatsoever that NASCAR is, if you want to go ahead and use that word, a major sport in America because of the money that's involved. I mean, there's hundreds of billions of dollars here. They're never going to go broke. They're never going to go out of business. People keep saying that if NASCAR screws up, they're going to go out of business. Will you please stop with that? Complete and utter nonsense. But NASCAR has eroded the confidence of its fans, its sponsors, its drivers, everybody involved over the last few years by taking every single bad step they possibly could because somebody in the high hallowed towers of NASCAR decided they wanted to do things a little bit differently. Let's go ahead and toy with things a little bit. Toying with things a little bit is fine, but not when you basically piss off your fan base. So NASCAR is looking at 2026 as the year, right now, a major sport, and they've got to succeed, and they've got to win those fans back. Because if they don't, those fans are never going to come back, and they're not going to grab the young fans, which is part and parcel what NASCAR decided to do. They looked around at what the sport was, and they decided, we've got to modernize. And the one thing we're going to modernize that they started with, we'll get to other things in a moment, but what they started with was the playoffs. The chase format had been in there for many, many, many years. Drivers raced right to the end. You got points for where you finished. You got points for winning. And that point counter just keep going up. And it kept balancing back and forth. But NASCAR decided they wanted to be like everybody else. We want to be like baseball, football, basketball, hockey. We want to have playoffs. You know why? It's not because playoffs settle anything. It's because playoffs make money. Make more money every single time. They wanted to add a drama effect to it. And to be honest, they weren't entirely wrong, because the chase format had basically lent itself to, by the time, many times, you got down to the end of the year, down to maybe the last 4 or 5 races, you knew who was going to win. I mean, seriously. It was 1 or 2, maybe that's it. Everybody else was out. No matter how many points you get, you simply weren't going to contend. And people got tired of that. Some did. But the old school NASCAR fan, no. We like that. Don't screw with it. NASCAR brought in the playoffs. To be honest, I thought the playoffs were a brilliant idea. I liked it. I liked the way it conceded and the way it moved, because you have 10 drivers, 12 drivers, whatever number you want to make, and every single week you cut it down. You either win, you either get close, you either get those points, or you fall off the wayside. And then, like every other playoff that starts with maybe 12, 14, 20 teams, whatever it is you want, eventually you get down to one race, one event, and it's the final 2. To me, that was perfect. Then again, I'm not the hardcore NASCAR fan. Look, I used to be that fan. I used to be the guy who weekends would want to sit around and watch the race. They lost me completely in the last decade. And they didn't get a lot of people back. How I got lost is something else, but let's stay with the playoffs here for a moment. So NASCAR decided the only way we're going to go ahead and continue to be successful and continue to make those billions of dollars is we need to go back to the chase format. Okay, fans, you got it. You're back in the chase. So no more bitching and moaning and hollering and screaming and wenching and wankering about what goes on in a playoff. You got your chase. Drivers, some like it, some don't. Some drivers say, well, you're finally making it fair again. To me personally, I think the playoff was more fair. But here you go. The season begins. NASCAR now has a chance to recapture those fans. But what about young fans? NASCAR's got to grab those young fans by the short hairs, and they got to bring them in. They're not bringing in as many young fans, as many families as they used to. Number of reasons why. One is they keep screwing with the rules. I mean, every single week it looks like a rule has changed. This has changed. That's not right. We're going to change this. You don't change rules in the middle of a season. You set the rules. You stick with the rules. You let them last through the entire season. Come hell or high water. Okay? That takes out any confusion. Also, the cost of going to races. It's not cheap. I mean, it used to be fairly cheap, and yeah, you can maybe still get seats up in the nosebleed for a couple of bucks. And not only that, but it takes a lot of money now to travel to these races and go to these events over and over, and people just don't have the money anymore. So NASCAR is finding itself to where they've got to charge a certain amount of money, but at the same time, they got to make it affordable. They're not grabbing the younger audience, because that younger audience is a very social media savvy audience, is one that doesn't rely on watching a race on television every week, doesn't rely on all these other gimmicks and gags. What they rely on is what they come across on their phone and what they see. And NASCAR's doing a terrible job with that. Their social media is awful. Sure, they put out the things that here comes the race, and here's the finish, and here's what's happening. But they're not humanizing the drivers. See, that's one of the biggest things that I have a real problem with as far as NASCAR is concerned. Every sport nowadays embraces social media. They have to. They have to because it's what drives money. It drives sponsors. You can't do everything on a Fox or an NBC broadcast or an ESPN broadcast. You've got to be part of the social media. That's what the sponsors want. And they've done this just by rote. It's the same thing. It's the same social media you got 10 years ago. Nothing's different. Nothing's interesting. Nothing's entertaining because the drivers are boring. They're not allowed to step out. Look, NASCAR is so self-conscious of itself that every time a driver gets pissed at another driver, oh, no, bring it in, calm it down. We don't want anybody arguing. Come on, argue. Go ahead. Turn them loose a little bit. Let those drivers go at it in the garages and the pits. Why not? Show a little emotion. I mean, I'm not talking about knockdown, drag-out fights, but let them emote. Let them be personalities. Let them be more than just the guy or the gal behind the helmet, because that's boring. That's stunningly boring. And yeah, fans will say I have a favorite driver, but they're not into the drivers' lives. You must bring them up. You must let them become something more than just the person behind the helmet. Every other sport has done it. Every other sport. Although I will say the National Hockey League is still behind. They haven't really humanized their players. But NASCAR's got to do this. They got to make the players something special. And to that point, NASCAR has got to. You've got to have more interaction with the fans in the garages. I mean, I come from a time in NASCAR when just about anybody could go down into the garages before the races. It was a cold pit. Working on the cars, you could get down there and you could meet the drivers. You could get pictures. You could get autographs. You could stand around and just talk cars with everybody else in there. You could talk technical terms. You could have some fun down there. It's not what it used to be. NASCAR has cut that off at the knees over the years and has not made it as accessible. Now, what they'll do is they'll say, well, we bring the drivers out every now and then for autographs. Come on. You're protecting these drivers. And yeah, I get it. A lot of the point is the drivers don't give a spit. They don't want to be involved with the fans. You've got a lot of drivers who say, look, I got other things to do. And they'll also claim that, well, I got to get ready for the race and I got to study this and I got to do that. Look, part of your job is being a celebrity. Part of your job is being entertainment. So you've got to get out there and you've got to get up. You got to get up close. You got to get eye to eye with these fans. And NASCAR has stopped that. They cut that out. And it's not what it used to be. We need more FaceTime with the drivers. You've got to have that with the fans. Because the fans right now, sure, they get the occasional features on social media. They get the occasional features on television. But they don't really get to know the drivers. And getting to know the drivers makes it special for all of these fans. And that's what you've got to focus on. NASCAR's done a terrible job with that. But then again, I'll also say that the drivers have done a terrible job. And their sponsorships and their PR people have done a terrible job. They don't get them out there. They don't push them out there. And the drivers come up with all kinds of excuses where they don't want to deal with the fans. Stop it. You're Showtime. You're Hollywood. You're entertainment. And you've got to be that. Now, with all of this having been said, NASCAR still has a problem relating to the fans that are not the hardcore. So you've got to create an environment that's easy for them. One of the things I alluded to earlier, stop changing rules in the middle of stream. I mean, we start the season and all of a sudden 10 races in, we're changing this on the tires. We're changing this on the brakes. We're changing this on the aerodynamics. Stop, sit with it, suck it up, and just go the entire season like that. Fans want consistency. If you haven't noticed, fans get pissed when things got changed in baseball. They get pissed when things get changed in football. But notice also that the major sports that succeed don't change their rules in the middle of the flow. They have it sit there, and just be done with it. Now, regarding the actual mechanics of what goes on here, stop screwing with the cars, okay? The cars are pablum at this point. I mean, everything's the same. Everything is so immediately tiny down to the metric of being absolutely the same because we all want to see what the drivers can do. I get that. The drivers are the ones that have to take these cars and they got to muscle them around the tracks. But how about loosening it up just a little bit? How about giving these teams the chance to do something different, anything? Look, I don't know what it is because you've still got to have that fair racing where everybody gets in there. But it would be nice to see what happens when you turn these teams loose a little bit. Set a ceiling for them. Give it an opportunity to go ahead and do things a little bit differently. Then again, it might not work. But here's what has to work. NASCAR has to realize that if they don't get their fans back, those hardcore fans back in 2026, things are going to change. Because there was a time, wax poetic here for a moment, when NASCAR was thought to be one of the 4 top sports in America. It was certainly one of the top 5. And there was even people who thought that NASCAR could overtake baseball, because baseball had a lot of problems for a lot of years. They still do, but they were in a period where the fans were so pissed they were walking away. They could overtake NASCAR, maybe even the NBA, maybe even challenge the NFL for the #1 spot in America. No, it was a fallacy back then. It always has been. Because NASCAR pumped itself up and they had all the media on top of them and wanted to be their friends and wanted to help them. It wasn't going to happen. Now you've got NASCAR, who's definitely behind football, baseball, and basketball. Hockey is growing. Golf has certainly always been a big sport. So is tennis in this country. You've got women's basketball that's huge right now. NASCAR's in a crowded field. And it's tough to go ahead and make fans if you're not a motorhead. Because let's face it, most of us who follow NASCAR, I followed NASCAR for a lot of years, close. I even covered the races. I worked the pits. I worked the garages for Motor Racing Network. I was there. It's just not as fun as it used to be anymore. It's not as entertaining. It's not as much of a draw. The Daytona 500 is indeed sold out, as it should be. But I keep looking at this sport and wondering what they're going to do next to screw it up. I mean, NASCAR has basically come back and said, we were wrong. Yeah, you were. You were wrong in a lot of things you did. And you also tried to freeze out the owners and the teams as well. That stopped thanks to Michael Jordan. So you've got a brand new era to start with here. I want to see NASCAR succeed. I mean, when it comes to motorsports, I'm a gearhead. I like Formula One. I love drag racing. I'm a big fan of some of the other sports, IMSA and auto racing and what is basically course racing. I love it. I love to see NASCAR succeed. But the other thing NASCAR's got to do is, here's something to start with. get rid of the road course racing. Most people don't like it. A lot of the drivers don't like it. What people want to see is super speedways and short tracks. Now, personally, I like the road courses, but you hear a lot of people bitch and moan about it. But then again, what NASCAR wants to prove is their drivers can do more than just hit the gas and turn left. I think they need to stay. But there's a lot of fans out there who say they got to go. Also, I'd like to see the Daytona 500 not at the beginning of the season. I'd also like to see them come up with a better place to end the season than the Homestead Miami Speedway, which is one of the most boring tracks in motorsports. It was a flat course for many years. Then NASCAR basically bought it, changed it, made it better. But it's just boring. It's not that kind of a super speedway that you want for a last season race. Hell, I got news for you. Okay, you want to keep the Daytona 500 right at the beginning of the season? Bookend it. Put another Daytona 500 race at the end of the season. Make that the one that settles everything. Because here, you've got great racing. You got rubbing is racing, baby. And that's going to get a lot of people interested. And take away the mid-season race. I don't know. Maybe put a third race in there. But NASCAR right now has got this wide open path. They've got to make things better. They've got to get out there and they've got to regain some of that glory. But let's not kid ourselves. NASCAR's not broke, as some people have said. NASCAR is a multi-billion-dollar industry. They have no worries about money. They can print money, and they will, forever and ever, until they take away cars and make them all electric. But NASCAR's not going anywhere. They have a chance to bring back the fan, the loyal fan. And I'm a fan guy. I think fans need to be serviced. Fans need to be helped. Fans need to be entertained. And NASCAR needs to do a better job of it, from the races, the types of races, the driver interaction, the fan interaction at the track. And I'm not talking about the hat dance that goes on outside in the paddock area, or goes on outside the track where people get all together and buy fake autographed pictures and hats of their favorite drivers. No, I'm talking about one-on-one, baby, right in the eyes. Get the drivers out there, get them with the fans, get them to interact, make this sport more accessible than any of the other sports, and you've got that ability. You've got that ability right there, because nowhere are fans able to get so close than they can in motorsports, because of garages and paddocks and places where the drivers gather. You can't do that. Football, baseball, basketball, hockey, they're all sitting in a locker room somewhere. Your guys aren't in a locker room. They're in their trailers. Pull them the hell out of the trailers and get them out there. Spend more time with the fans. And don't tell me that you got to get ready for the race. You're a professional. You got all week to do that. One day a week, get out there and hang around with the fans. And NASCAR, think twice. You screwed it up once. You get one chance to not screw it up again. One chance.